Good morning, dear students. Welcome once again. In our last class, we have discussed about the working of river, right? You might have remembered what are the workings of river. It forms waterfalls, right? Moreover, it forms distributaries, right? So, moreover, it has formed Oxbow Lake also, which I have discussed, right? So, these are the things I have discussed. Now, as I have told you, now we have to read about the working of sea waves, the waves that arise from sea waves. What are the different works being carried out by the sea waves? The work of the sea waves, there are two processes involved here, right? Erosion and deposition. Erosion means wearing away of landscape. Okay, wearing away of landscape, erosion of landscape, taking away of landscape. Okay, taking away of soil, taking away that part, the crust, taking away the crust part of the earth. Okay, erosion, wearing away, wearing, wearing away of landscape is known as erosion. Let's see what it does. So these two processes, erosion and deposition, okay, of sea waves give rise to coastal landforms. That means when sea waves comes and goes, it erodes the land, it takes away the land, as well as it deposits some sediments, it deposits some sand, or it deposits part of the land elsewhere. Okay, so the erosion and deposition of sea waves give rise to coastal landforms, those lands which are along the seaside, along the seashores, are the results of erosion and deposition by the sea waves. Clear? Now, sea waves continuously strike at the rocks. Now, along the coastal region, that means along the seaside, seashore. Suppose if this is a rock, if sea waves come and strike continuously time and again, after passage of time, after several years, after several decades, it forms a hole over there, isn't it? Suppose if sea waves are coming and they strike time and again on that rock develop cracks, then holes are formed, right? Giving rise to sea cave, which you know, right? CAVE, cave. Okay, so sea waves continuously strike at the rocks, cracks develop. First cracks develop in the rock and they become larger and wider. It becomes larger and wider. As a result, a hollow-like caves formed on rocks. So rocks, if you erode it, if you take away the part, when it cracks, when it breaks, and hollow structure will be formed inside the rock, it will be a cave, right? So sea caves are formed due to this action. Clear? So how the sea caves are formed? Due to continuously striking up of water, or due to continuously striking up of sea waves, the rocks develop crack and finally forms a hollow-like structure, hollow, right? Which is not solid, hollow-like structure called cave. You might have read in your stories also what are caves. A lion used to live in a cave, so that is the cave. Okay? Understood? Yes. Now, once the cave is being formed, or once the sea cave is formed, it keeps on striking time and again, time and again, time and again. Finally, the walls is being taken away completely, right? So we get another structure, a structure like this. See, it was a big rock. Time and again the sea waves are striking, takes away all the wall part, right? So this structure. So over time, these cavities, that cavity which are being formed in the form of cave, those cavities cavities become bigger and bigger. Okay, because sea waves come time and again and they strike the cave, right? So the cavity become bigger and bigger, and when the cavity become bigger and bigger, only the roof of the caves remain. Only the roof, right? Roof of the cave remains, which result in formation of sea arches. Such structure is called sea arches. Okay, clear? First cave is formed, sea cave. Now when sea cave is formed, time and again the sea water or the waves strike it time and again, time and again. A time comes when only the roof is being left out. Okay, that structure is known as sea arch. Clear? Yes, these are simple things. When you use your brains, it will be easier. Now, when only roof remains and the sea waves comes and it strikes the roof also, then a time comes when the roof also gets collided away. Only you get the walls, right? Pillar-like structure. Okay, those are called stacks. See. Later on, with the passage of time, erosion breaks the roof. Even the roofs are being broken down by the waves. Okay, coming waves. And only walls are left. See, only walls are being left in the midst of the sea, or you can say water body, right? These are called stacks. These are stacks. Clear? Now, I don't think there will be any problem. Now you got to know how the sea caves are formed. Then after that, sea arches are formed. After that, stacks remain over there. Okay, these are structures known as stacks. See, the roof has been removed. If the roof will be there, it will be sea arches. And earlier, it were sea caves, isn't it? Yes, so you keep on seeing these pictures. I don't think there will be any problem with these things. After that, suppose if the sea wave deposit the sediments, whenever a river flows, whenever the sea wave comes, it carries with them sand, silt and several other materials, isn't it? So the sea waves deposit sediments along shore. That means along the side, along the area where the sea ends, it comes, deposit the sediment over here and goes away. When such deposition of sediments take place along the shore, along the side of a sea, that results in formation of beautiful beaches. Okay, so here is a beautiful diagram of how beach are being formed. Clear? When the river flows, it flows with the sand and silt. When the sea especially comes along the side of the sea, right, at the edge of the sea, it leaves behind the sediments, goes away, right? So by such phenomenon, beaches are formed. Beautiful beaches are being formed. So the sea waves deposit sediments along the shore, along the side of the sea, forming beaches, right? So these are the works of sea wave, right? How sea wave work? It helps in the formation of sea cave, then sea arches, then stacks, and finally beaches. Okay, now works of ice. What are the different works of ice? From the very beginning, you know this term glacier. What is a glacier? Large mass, huge mass of ice is known as glacier, right? Everybody of us knows that. So what are glaciers? Large mass of ice. If somebody asks you what is a glacier here, you can simply say large masses of ice are called glaciers, right? Now, as the ice melts, when the ice melts, they get filled up with water, right? So once they get filled up with water, what they will form? It becomes beautiful lakes. Yes. Okay. Now you have understood how lakes are being formed. Yes. When the ice melts and turns or gets converted into water, then it forms beautiful lakes. Clear? So it is the work of the ice that make beautiful lakes. Now glacial moraines. Glacial moraines is another term. Okay, rocks, big and small, either it will be big rock or it will be small rock. Okay, so the rock, sand, silt, all are deposited by glacier. That forms a structure known as glacial moraines. Okay, see a beautiful picture of glacial moraines or glacial moraines. Okay, these glaciers are coming from each and every side. Whenever they come from any side, they takes away rock, sand, silt with them, and wherever they don't find any external force to move on further, they deposit all the sand, silt, rocks in front of it, forming beautiful structures called moraines. Okay, here is another example. All the glaciers are coming and deposit sand, silt, sediments, rocks at one position, forming moraines. Okay, so what are glacial moraines? Rocks which are big and small, sand, silt deposited by glacier, okay, are called glacial moraines. Okay, glacial moraines or glacier moraines, you can say, no problem. These were the some of the works of the ice. Now let's understand the work of wind. Wind also plays too many important role in our life. It also forms some of the structure on the landscape. Okay, work of wind. In desert, rocks are present in shape of mushroom. When you visit desert, big deserts, you may find rocks in the shape of mushroom. It is of the shape of mushroom, right? Mushroom which you used to eat as a vegetable. Yes. So rocks in desert areas somewhere, sometimes you found rocks in the form of mushroom. How it is formed? Actually, when the wind flows, when the wind blows, it erodes away, it takes away the lower part of the rock. Okay, whereas the upper part remains as it is. Helps in the formation of mushroom rocks. Okay, and these mushroom rocks are found where? In deserts. Okay, wind erode the lower section of rock. The lower section of the rock gets eroded away, taken away, leaving the upper part as it is, or the lower section of the rock gets eroded more in comparison to the upper part. Okay, which leads to the formation of mushroom rocks. Okay, clear? These are beautiful structures to watch, right? Yes. Now, when sand falls and get deposited on the low hills, suppose if there are low hills and some area, so when sand falls on those low hills, okay, when the sand falls and get deposited along on the low hills, it forms sand dunes. See the beautiful structure of sand dunes everywhere, right? You might have learnt earlier also, I don't know, but if you have not learned, always remember sand dunes. When the sand get deposited along the low hills, right? So when the sand get deposited on low hills, it forms sand dunes. Clear? Yes. Now, when sand get deposited in large areas, sand everywhere, you say that area as loess. Clear? Clear? So when the sand gets deposited in large area, it forms loess, and large deposit of loess is found where? In China. You might have learned this, you might have read about this in your earlier class also, or maybe in GK you might have learned about this. So you must remember that large deposit of loess is found in China. Okay? Now these are your homeworks, you should note it down, but let me continue with the next part also. Later on I am going to give you the homework. Question answer of the textbook. Why do plates move? Remembered, I have discussed why do plates move. The lithospheric plates, why it moves? Due to movement of molten magma. Yes, plates move due to movement of molten magma. Okay, clear? So why do plates move? If the question comes, why do plates move? Plates move due to movement of molten magma. Okay, what are exogenic and endogenic forces? Another question. I have already discussed this thing, right? All the question answers are very simple, dear. After such an explanation, you don't need any question answer to be explained, but still I am explaining so that you don't have any doubt. Okay, so what are exogenic forces and what are endogenic forces? The forces that work on the surface of the earth, right? They are exogenic forces. Exo, outside, okay? Genic, origin. I have given that term also, Latin term. Okay, now the forces that act in the interior of the earth are called endogenic forces, right? So these are the forces, these are important forces which time and again work on the surface or inside the interior of the earth, which makes the landforms to get changed, right? So I think it is very simple. What are exogenic forces? What are endogenic forces? Right? I don't think there will be any problem with this. Now, one question is, what is erosion? Right? So the wearing away of landscape, that is the key. The wearing away, taken away, okay? Removing away, okay? So the wearing away of landscape. Landscape means part of the land. Or the wearing away, the taking away, the removing away of land part or landscape by agents. What are the agents? It may be wind, it may be water, it may be ice. So several agents are there which I have made you to know, right? Work of a river, work of ice, right? So these are the agents, wind, water, ice, which makes the landscape to get veered away, taken away. Okay, so the veering away of landscape by agents like wind, water, ice, etc. is called erosion. Okay, make it a point that what is erosion. So if somebody asks you what do you mean by the term erosion, the veering away of landscape by wind, water, ice, etc. is known as erosion. Clear? Yes. I don't think any problem will be there for you. Now one important question is, how are flood plains formed? This is an important question here. How are flood plains formed? See, during its course through a plain, that means during the course of a river, the river flows, right? When it flows, sometimes at the plain area or during its course, during its flowing away, a river sometimes overflow its bank. Suppose if there is a river, okay, there is a boundary of a river. The river is extended up to this much area. When the water comes, more and more water gets filled up in the river, it overflows. It breaks away its banks. Banks means edge. Okay, so when the river overflow its bank, leads to flooding of neighboring areas. Flood comes in the neighboring areas. or flood comes in the nearby areas. Clear? Right? So as it floods, the river water deposits layers of fine soil and sediments on its bank. This leads to formation of floodplain. Phenomenon is simple here. I have already told you, time and again I am telling you, whenever river flows, it carries with it sand, silt, sediments, all these materials. So when overflooding of river happens, it goes beyond its bank. And once it goes beyond its bank, okay, the flood comes in the nearby areas or in the neighboring areas, right? Now as it floods, the river water deposit layer of sand, sediment, silt, okay, which is available inside it. So these deposition of sand, silt, sediments along the banks of the river, or you can say at the nearby areas, lead to formation of floodplain. So when the flood comes, okay, water becomes everywhere, and when this flood goes away or water gets evaporated, water gets lost away, we get sand, silt, sediments in that area which are very fertile, that lead to the formation of floodplain. Clear? The phenomenon is very simple. I don't think there will be any problem with these questions. Now another question is, what are sand dunes? Right? What are sand dunes? I have already discussed. Right? When wind blows, suppose if the wind blows, it carries with it sand. Right? And when the wind stops, it makes the sand to fall down and get deposited in the low hills or in the hill area. Okay, small hills, low hills, right? So this deposition of sands over this low hills is known as sand dunes. Clear? So when wind blows, it carries sand with them, right? And when the wind stops, as the wind stops, sand falls and get deposited in low hills. Okay? Whenever the sand gets deposited along the low hills, it forms sand dunes. Clear? I have given you a diagram also, a picture also, a beautiful picture of it, isn't it? Now another question is, how are beaches formed? How are beaches formed? Right? The sea waves deposit sediments along the shores which lead to formation of beaches. I have already explained to you, right? I don't think these are needed to be clarified. Beaches. How beaches are formed? When the sea waves deposit sand, silt, sediment along the shore or along the beach, along the side of the sea, right, lead to the formation of beaches. Clear? All these things I think I have discussed, right? Now it's time for you to note down the homeworks of today. Okay, just note down the homeworks here. These are very simple. Okay, homeworks for today. What are mushroom rocks? First question is, what are mushroom rocks? Remember mushroom rocks? Yes, the rocks in the form of mushroom. Where they are formed, how they are formed, what is the phenomenon associated with it. Okay, you have to define it in short. Okay, what are mushroom rocks? And second question is, what are sea caves and sea arches? I have made you explain in the section work of sea waves, right? How sea caves are formed and how sea arches are formed, isn't it? You might have remembered, right? So you have to do this homework, 2 homeworks. In the later part, I am going to explain you how what are the rest of the question, how you are going to deal with, match the following, tick the following, all these things you can do by simply seeing into the answer keys. Okay, I don't think there will be any problem with that. If you still don't understand the thing, you can ask me whenever I will be available by writing in the comment box, no problem. Okay, I will try my level best to solve your problems. Okay, so I think you might be enjoying this online classes and you are enjoying it on full. Okay, so keep studying, keep continuing on. Have a nice day, have a wonderful day, enjoy with your family. Bye.